Hello and welcome to Azure Live Mert to the Future. And today we are going to talk about security. And as you know, we have two guests, but Tim couldn't make it due to some
Only one.
yes, due to some technical issues. So today we are going to talk with Wim Matthyssen, if I can pronounce it correctly.
Yeah, it's quite good, yeah.
Okay, thank you. So, Wim, welcome to Azure Live. How are
Thank
you?
you. Fine, and I hope I can do it all by myself because normally I was joined by Tim, and Tim was also talking about some specific topics related to security and more, focused on secure scores. You have a lot of them these days, but yeah, we'll see how we'll do, and I will try to fill the gap. But hopefully next time Tim can join in another session of you. So yeah. But thanks for allowing us to do the talk and talk with you because it's our first time.
You are welcome.
And,
Yes.
I saw a lot of your shows, so I'm happy to be a guest in it. So
thank you very much. And also, I am very excited to have you here because I am following you for a long time. And this is the first time we are making a webcast together.
Yeah. So maybe I tell a little bit about me. If that's okay for you. So let me share my screen. You're faster than me. So hello everyone, and for people who don't know me, my name is Wim Matthyssen. I live in Belgium, where I work as an Azure technical advisor at a company called Proximus. As a Microsoft certified trainer, I also deliver all kind of Azure workshops and trainings. And community-wise, I'm a founding board member of a Belgian user group called MC2MC. Just like Tim is also normally a board member of it. MC2MC itself stands for Microsoft Cloud and Client Management Community, and we mainly focus on Azure and Microsoft 365, but we also keep an eye on security, Hyper-V, and even the complete Windows Server landscape. Next to that, I also have my own blog, https://wimmatthyssen.com, and since July last year, 2 years ago, I'm also awarded as a Microsoft Azure MVP, which was and still is a huge honor. I think you're also an MVP these days, Mert, if I'm correct. Also
yes,
in the Azure
correct.
category, yeah. And yeah, like most IT professionals these days, I'm also on Twitter and LinkedIn. So yeah, if you ever somebody wants to reach out, ask a question, or just want to say hi, they can always contact me through my Twitter handle at Wim Matthyssen or LinkedIn, or they can even simply scan the QR code at the bottom. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
So what is your part in today's session?
Normally I will be talking about Security Center and the Secure Score, this Azure Security Center Secure Score, and also about the Azure Advisor Score. That's something that's in preview. Probably a lot of people already use or know Azure Advisor, but yeah, the score is added in preview, and I will show that also. And normally Tim would talk about Microsoft 365 Secure Score and Identity Secure Score, but yeah, I can also take over the Identity Score part, I think, because it's also, I saw it in my portal. It's also, I can show some things about that one also. So I think, Mert, these days, yeah, everybody knows that security should be a top priority for IT. I hope your company knows it. I know a lot of people listening and watching this knows it. And security is important because in today's modern hybrid cloud world, I think many companies are moving a lot of their on-premises resources and workloads to Azure, or combining both in a hybrid scenario. A lot of companies still have resources running on-premise and in Azure, or even in another public clouds like AWS or Google Cloud, for example. But just like they need to secure all their resources running in their on-premises data center or in their private cloud, their new cloud ecosystem, like a lot of people call it, also need protection to prevent it not only from breaches, but also from ransomware and other malicious invaders. And I think that's why security these days really should be a top priority for every IT department and company. So I think, Mert, maybe you came in contact with some of these exploits. Like you can see on the slide, these days there are all kind of threats and cyber attacks. I hope you didn't have one at your company previously, where attackers may use existing techniques like, let us think of, for example, social engineering. Everybody knows where an attacker tries to manipulate someone to give up confidential information, or I think ransomware, for example, is another one. A kind of malware which encrypts a company's files or data, like after which the attacker then demands a ransom to the company to restore access to that specific data. But these days, also, like you can see on the screen, there are also some new techniques attackers or hackers use, like let us say acquiring Azure tenant keys from GitHub, or where an attacker tries to get into an Azure VM by use of brute force or RDP SSH password spray attacks. And for example, when you're running an unprotected IaaS web server, there's still people running IaaS web servers in Azure, and that server is breached. Attackers can use it to install crypto mining malware and use that one then for cryptocurrency mining, for example. So I don't know, Mert, if you ever came in contact with one of these attacks, but they're happening a lot, and a lot of companies get victim of one of those attacks. So let's hope it doesn't happen to you, but you can all be sure to better protect yourself. And I hope I can show you some things that can help you to uplift your security posture.
So I have a question. What do you mean by acquire tenant keys from GitHub? Do you mean public repositories or private repositories?
Mostly. There are also techniques I read about that they can. Mostly it's a public repositories, but not every company is using those private ones. That's the big problem. And if they get their hands on specific keys, they can get into some other things. And if they can breach somewhere in your organization to one specific exploit or a key that's available somewhere, there are a lot of techniques available these days that they can use that specific key to get to steal a specific identity, for example. And with that specific identity, they're able to log on to a specific server or to a specific application, and from there they can install some software, and then from there they can go around in completely all your environment. So there are a lot of security breaches these days, and everything can be compromised, I think, if you don't protect it like it should. And let's hope it doesn't happen to you. I don't know. Did you ever came in contact with one of these attacks, or did you ever get in touch with a company that was breached? In Belgium, I was once in contact with a company that had been a victim of ransomware, and all their files were encrypted. They couldn't access them anymore, but luckily they had a good backup, and they could restore everything and build it up from there. But it took them around, I think, 2 to 3 weeks to get everything back up and running. And in the meantime, I think 50 to 100 people weren't able to do their work like they should be. So it's really important to really protect your environment, and especially your cloud environments too, because everybody thinks everybody thinks it's in the cloud, it's better protected. Microsoft is doing anything, but it's not because it's in Azure. It's a shared responsibility. Microsoft is doing some things depending in which is it IaaS, PaaS, or SaaS, in which place you're running or in which way you run your applications. But there is also a part you're responsible to secure, to protect your data, to foresee accidents, stuff like that. And next to those Azure-related things, we also have identity-related threats, and That's why protecting your cloud identities and also your other identities should also be a security top priority. Because also these days there are also a lot of breaches caused by credential theft. And we still see, for example, a lot of user passwords are duplicates, which makes it, for an attacker quite easy to track a password down and to get, like I said before, into a system or into an application. And next to those, a lot of companies also still have a lot of shadow IT, where employees use non-approved apps for work-related tasks. So probably a lot of people have a work device. They have their laptop, but they're a local admin on it, and they can in some cases they're local admin it. Hopefully, not a lot, and they can install their own application on it. And from there, attackers can also breach the company laptop and get into the company applications and breach it from over there. So on this slide, for example, you see some examples of identity breaches. For example, you see the top 20 most popular passwords used by employees at the bottom, which can simply be looked up by opening a browser. Just open your Edge browser and look for them through Bing or Google. Just type it in, password popularity top 20. And probably if you use some of those passwords in combination with a username, you're already able to log into some applications or to some service, for example. On the slide, you can also see a nice website listed. I don't know if you know it, haveibeenpwned.com. Did you ever came in contact with that one, Mert, or did you use it before?
Yes, I know it, and I used it before. To check if my email.
Yeah, that's true. So for people who don't know it, haveibeenpwned.com is a website where you can check if you have an account that has been compromised in a data breach. You simply need to type in your email address or one of your email addresses that you want to validate, and then the site in the back will check if that specific account is breached. So I would advise everyone to try it out when they have the time. Hopefully all your accounts are protected. But it could be there are some being already used. For example, your Gmail accounts or whatever, or your Hotmail accounts. Just put it in there, check it, and see if they're all okay, still all okay. Because it's a way to get into your applications. It's a way to get into your company applications and stuff like that. So it's an easy website. You can use it for free. So I would advise to try it out.
And also there's a list of latest breaches in that site. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, there are a lot of I use it from time to time. For example, that company that had that breach, we went through all their accounts and check them out. You can maybe automate it in some way, just to see if there's all protected, or it's an easy way to check things out. So I try it from time to time, and I also try to give it as an advice when I do a specific presentation related to identity or to security. It's a website I like to mention. It's easy to use, so try it out, I would say. So, and I think, Mert, you probably also saw it, is next to all those breaches and stuff like that, still a lot of companies struggle with their cloud security and securing their cloud or hybrid cloud workloads. It's most of the time it's difficult for them to recognize when their systems are being attacked or being compromised. Mostly because they don't have the necessary security tools and controls in place, which give them enough visibility into their security and compliance. And that's why a lot of breaches still take months or longer to be discovered. And next to that, a lot of companies also have a lot of insecure configurations, which all can lead to breaches. Just think of unpatched systems, for example, or systems without any antivirus, or just workloads running on servers with ports widely open on the internet. And these days, also cyber attacks are increasing in number, and the attacks itself are getting more sophisticated, which can also lead to more successful breaches. Oh, that's the wrong one. And securing and protecting their clouds is for a company from threats is mostly also something new for companies. They were used to protecting their on-premise environments. They had a firewall in place. They have patches to get into the server room. They applied updates on their Windows servers or Linux VMs. They were using Linux, protecting it, and stuff like that. Though, while many of the security principles remain the same as when they were working on premises, the implementation of the security controls for your cloud environment is often very different. And I think as a good security base, every company should follow 5 fundamental practices, which can help them uplift their cloud security. So I think they should really try to focus on, first of all, identity and access control, improving their overall security posture. Next to that, also protecting their apps and data, mitigating threats, and last but not least, protecting their network. Because it's not because you're running in Azure that you don't have a network. You all know if you're still running IaaS, you should use VNet and subnet. So you should also try to protect that network. And something Tim and myself always give as an important tip when we do a talk related to identity and security in the cloud is that a company, you should try to adapt a zero trust approach. I don't know if you ever heard of that approach, Mert, before. It's the first time you hear that specific word, zero trust?
No, not the first time.
Okay.
But this is a very nice chart to explain.
Do you know how it works, or how do you have to get it working? So when you try to implement a zero trust approach, you as a company, or you as an IT administrator, for example, or a cloud administrator, you assume breach, and you will verify each request if it originates from a public cloud or some place outside of your firewall. And by applying that zero trust approach, you never assume trust, but you instead continually validate that trust. In that way, trust is no longer assumed just based on location inside of your organization's perimeter, but also from outside. And you should do this because these days most of your users now also access applications and data from the internet, like, for example, your Azure workloads or all your SaaS applications, for example. So every time a user tries to use a specific application, you can use specific conditions to allow him access. You can check his location. You can check his device where he's trying to log on with. Does it have all the policies? Is the antivirus enabled and stuff like that? Is he logging in from 2 different places in 5 minutes that are far away from each other? So you can, for example, use conditional access for that, or you can also, and if any of these access conditions doesn't fit the requirements, you simply block access and the user can't use that specific application, or he can't log in that specific VM, for example. So there's a big sentence, a highlighted sentence over there. So assume breach and verify each request. I thought it originates from an open network. So you will control everything that happens in your environment. You should also enable MFA. Hopefully already everybody is doing it. And try to implement an approach like this. It's not always that easy, because it's also, for a lot of companies, it's going to be a switch, because users were used to just write their password down on a sticky note and place it on their screen. Probably you saw that one before also. But those things these days couldn't happen anymore, because you should better protect everything and assume breach. So I hope I explained it a little bit understandable for everybody. I don't know if you have something to add to this, Mert, for example.
No, but I have a question about this.
Okay.
I am not a security expert, but some of my friends says the MFA is not enough to secure your environment.
No. MFA itself is not enough, but it's a thing everybody should enable. It's a first step, because with MFA you're going to control. You have, for example, I use a lot the Microsoft Authenticator app to authenticate myself, because it's something I have. I need to verify it with my finger, for example, and I need to fill in my password. So, for example, when I log into my own Azure portal, I first go to http://portal.azure.com, I fill in my username and password, and then MFA, I open my Authenticator app. I need to verify it with my finger, and it's already some way of protection, because if somebody wants to breach, he needs to have your phone, he needs to have your finger, and he needs to know your password. Probably the easiest thing to breach and to guess is your password and your username, but these days passwords are also quite long. But then they still need to have your phone, they need to have the Authenticator app, and they should have your fingerprint. So it's every user in these days, if you're using Azure AD, P1 or PT, enable MFA, start using conditional access and all those things. If you're using that specific license, just use it. Also use PIM. I don't know if you're already using it at your company, Mert, but PIM is also a good way to protect everything. Because even if you're an administrator and you want to do some specific things in your Azure portal, you should ask access, and you just get limited time of access, and just to do the thing you need to do. That's it. And you need to explain why you're doing that, and it's another. I don't know if you ever used JIT, for example, with Azure Security Center. I can show you. I have a few slides, and then maybe I can show some things in the Azure portal, and we can go through it, if that's okay for you.
Yes, that would be nice.
Yeah, so let me quickly answer this one. So luckily, Microsoft has, that's the topic of today, has some resources that can help you with your security. And I think most of people using Azure will know it, but for example, you have Azure Security Center. You can see Azure Security Center as your main stop when you need a first broad overview of your hybrid cloud environment security posture. It will give you complete visibility and control over the security of your hybrid cloud workloads, including compute, identity, network, storage, and all other type of resources and workloads. And it doesn't matter if they're running in Azure, on premises, or even in AWS or Google Cloud. And by actively monitoring these workloads, Security Center will reduce the exposure of these resources to threats. And a nice feature in Azure Security Center, and one that can really help you to analyze how well your Azure environments are protected from various threats, is Secure Score. Secure Score reviews your security recommendations and then prioritizes them for you. So you know which recommendations to perform first, and your current Secure Score, I will directly show it in the portal, is based on the number of Security Center recommendations you've completed. And to decide which recommendations to resolve first, you should look at the severity of each one, and also at its potential impact on your Secure Score. And you kind of could have used Secure Score as your, I always say, as your in-house security analyst. But maybe it's better to show it in the portal. I think everybody is seeing my Azure portal at the moment.
Yes, and let me make it full screen.
Yeah, that's a full screen. So if you want to open Security Center, you can simply do it. I can do it through the global search bar, just type in security. Oh, don't type things wrong. You click on Security Center. You can also, if you have the bar at the side, use the sidebar and go to Security Center. Well, let me open it from over here. So then you have Security Center, and the first thing is I have a big environment, a big test environment. So I have different subscriptions. The first thing you need to do, and which enables you to use Security Center, you should enable it with one of the 2 tiers. So currently, Security Center is available in 2 tiers. You have Azure Defender Off, or the free tier, which includes cloud security posture manager features such as Secure Score, for example. And next to that, you have Azure Defender On, which integrates cloud workload protections for your Azure environment and hybrid resources. And you can enable it if you go to the management. You click on pricing and settings. You see my complete management group hierarchy. So I have different management groups, and I have some subscriptions underneath specific management groups. For example, I have my dev subscription. You can see Azure Defender is off. So if I click on that specific subscription, you will see now Azure Defender is off. So that's the free tier. You can use it for free. If you only have one subscription and you open Security Center for the first time, the Azure Defender Off will be enabled by default. So it will be there directly. If you just want to switch from Azure Defender On to Azure Defender On, it's quite easy. Just click on this one. Then you can go to all specific resources if you know which resources are available in your environment and enable those. For example, I don't have any Azure SQL databases. I just can click this one. Just keep in mind that whenever you enable it, it will cost you some money. So for every specific resource, for example, if you have 5 IaaS servers and you enable it, it will cost you $15 for each instance. You can also simply enable all Azure Defender On features. I will leave this one like it is. If you also want to use Security Center to look inside your IaaS VMs, for example, then you need a Log Analytics agent or the Azure Monitor agent these days. If you simply go to auto provisioning, you can also set this status to on. And whenever you deploy a new virtual machine, the agent will be automatically installed inside that VM. So you don't need to go to your Log Analytics workspace. Probably everybody already knows this. I have a Log Analytics workspace. Then you can go to your virtual machines, and you can see all those virtual machines are connected, except this one. And you can also connect it by using it this way, but then you need to do it for every VM. And if you just enable it in Security Center, like I showed you, and you just enable that auto provisioning, it will install that specific agent it uses, Azure Monitor agent by itself. So it's an easy way to do it. Then next to that, then you have Security Center enabled. So you have the Azure Defender Off or the Azure Defender On plan. Then an important fact to use is the security policy. I don't know if you're familiar with that, Mert, at the moment.
No, I am not very familiar with policy management.
Okay. So simply said, the security policy defines a set of controls which are recommended for resources within that specified subscription. The default built-in security policy in Azure is the Azure Security Benchmark. So it doesn't matter if you're using the off or the on version. It's automatically enabled. It's currently in version 2, and it provides best practices and recommendations, also used in the CAF web framework and in Microsoft best practices. And in the back, that's security policy. You hear the word policy in security policy. You should know that it integrates with Azure Policy, and that when you start using it, it's a lot of parameters that can disabled, enabled. You need to customize it to your own settings, but let me show you. So for example, I also have my different subscriptions again. Now I'm under the security policy tab. You can see that, for example, on this environment, the dev subscription, the default policy is assigned. And for example, on my pre-subscription, the default policy is not assigned. If I go to that specific subscription and I want to enable it, I just can simply click on assign policy. And you can go through it. You can see assignment name, Azure security benchmark. You can fill in the description. Let me go to the next step. And then if you unmark this one, it will take a while because it needs to refresh. You will get a lot of options. You can disable, enable, and you can customize it. So here it is. So all these things are being checked automatically by that specific security policy just by enabling it. So probably a lot of security issues will rise up. But for example, you can go through them. You can look at this one, for example, log analytics agent, health issues should be resolved on your machines. If that's not important for you, you can simply disable it, and that specific rule or recommendation will not be checked. And you can also do it for, you can put, for example, manage security validation period. You can set it in audit mode. You can set it disabled. You can set it in deny mode. So the first time you start using this, you should really customize it and try to fit it to your environment and to the things you want to see. And then you can go to next. Remediation, you can create a managed identity if some things need to be remediated by itself. But let us keep this one. You can also set a specific message. So if a specific resource or a specific policy definition isn't followed, you can set which message should be popped up. And then you can simply create it, and that's it. And that's how you enable it. It will take some time. But let me just simply close this one. That's not a good way to close things. And now, for example, if you go to Azure Policy, that's also something nice to know. If you probably do it in your environment, Mert, you will see the same things. You can see Azure Security Benchmark is enabled for those specific subscriptions. So the thing you see in the Azure Security Center, you can also see through Azure Policy. And for example, you can simply check the compliance. You can click on this specific one. And you can even validate the compliance from over here. But it will probably take a time. And then you can see which security recommendations aren't followed, and you can go through it from over here. But let us focus on Secure Score, because that's the topic we were talking about. So let me go back to Security Center. Under Cloud Security, you see Secure Score. So it's an easy way to start protecting and uplift or improve the security posture of your different subscriptions. So you can see it's enabled. I don't know. The screen is big enough, Mert? It's quite clear. You see everything?
Yes, font is nice.
Yeah, okay. So for example, I have my management subscription. I currently have a secure score of 63%. Let me simply click on it, and then we can look at the recommendations. And then you see how it will be work. You can see there are different controls. Let me scroll down. You can simply click on those, and then you can see which recommendations are used with that specific control. So for me, for my environment and for this specific subscription, MFA is enabled, and it's enabled on all accounts with owner permissions, the other things. So my score for this specific part and this specific control is 10 on 10. But for example, if you look at the resource health, you see a green marker, but you also have some red ones. So if you, for example, click on one of those, you can see, let me open this one. For example, that have a virtual machine that has some management ports open that should be closed on the virtual machine. So if you click on that specific recommendation, for example, you can see that the severity is medium. the recommendations are automatically refreshed every 24 hours. So if you ever solve a specific recommendation or you fix the recommendation, it will take up 1 day before the recommendation is gone and before it's turned green instead of red. So also keep that one in mind. So if you click on the description, you can see what a recommendation is. So that specific VM, for example, has an open management port. You can also click on the remediation steps. So if you want to manually remediate it, you just need to simply follow these steps to get it solved. But for example, you can also click on that specific VM and you will directly go to that environment. And for example, you see I have an energy attached to that specific network in network interface that allows RDP. So if I simply delete that specific rule in that energy, that specific port in the case of RDP 3389 will not be opened anymore. And I have solved the specific security problem related to this VM. But let me go back to Security Center, but because there's also an easier way. So the nice thing is, if you have, like I said before, you have the two options. You have Azure Defender off and the Azure Defender on. When you enable the Azure Defender on, you will also get some quick remediation steps. So for example, if you go back to my management subscription, I think it was also under this one. If you click open that one, you also see one with a lighting mark from in the back. So you can simply click on that one. And normally there's a quick fix. So you just simply mark that specific VM, we click on fix, and that specific problem or security issue will be remediated at once without that you need to do some manual things. Or you can even trigger Logic App and the exempt. So for example, you know that specific VM is for, let us say, a jump host, and you allow it to have access from the internet. You can simply exempt this specific remediation. It will not being calculated in your secure score anymore. So different ways to fix things. So for example, I have something that can uplift my secure score with 4%. I can enable log analytics. I can install endpoint protection. So it's not a race to fix all security recommendations, but like you can see, it's an easy way to improve the security posture of your environment. I don't know if you have specific questions, Mert, or things you want to show.
And
it's available. Yeah.
After I exempt an issue on the portal, can I see that later if I change my mind?
Yeah. You can look at them, but then you need a specific filter, because I'm now filtering on all, but then you can, for example, contains exemptions, and then you can, for example, when I do an exemption, it will be all shown. If you have another view, you can simply select that specific view and select all those exemptions, and then allow it again, or enable it again, for example, like you say. But there's also a nice thing I want to show you. Over here, you see the Azure Security Center benchmark. So there's a lot of information on it. And for example, this one is also exempt. The secure score, you have a Power BI tool. So if you click on the Learn More, now it will open a new website. It's directly integrated with the Microsoft Docs. So it will, get you to that specific website, which is on the tech community. And there's a way to get your secure score in Power BI, because probably a lot of people are using Power BI and they want to show nice dashboards to people. So there is a way to enable secure score to be shown in Power BI. All the steps, you can simply click on it like I showed you through the Azure portal, and you get to the right document. And if you want to go to the installation guides, I'm not a Power BI specialist, to be clear. This is a complete way how you need to enable it. So Yeah, for people who want to use Power BI and show these things on nice dashboards in their operation center or whatever, there is a way to combine these two things also. So I don't know if you have some other questions related to Azure Security Center or the Secure Score. Maybe a thing I also want to mention, you have those specific security policies. So, for example, on this specific environment, my management subscription, the Azure Defender is on, and the default policy is assigned. But next to the default policy, the Azure Security Benchmark, because I'm using the Azure Defender on, I can also use other industry and regulation standards. So I can check my environment to other policies. Like, for example, if your environment or your subscriptions need to follow specific guidelines related to the ISO 27001, you can simply enable it, or you can even add more standards. And the list is quite huge. So if you need to follow specific regulations, just enable Azure Defender on, and you can add those and see how your environment is following those guidelines and which things you need to change to be compliant to those. But that's only available if your specific subscription is using the Azure Defender on option. So I don't know if that's quite clear, Mert, for you.
Yes, it is quite clear because, as you know, I'm a developer and I don't have very good knowledge on system stuff or the security.
Yeah, that's an easy way to do it. If you're not familiar with those things, it really explains you. You have that open, your storage accounts you're using, have public access, for example. With simply enabling the Azure Security Benchmark, all those things will pop up. And you simply can follow the manual remediation steps, or if you're lucky, there's a quick remediation and you just simply need to click on the fix button, or you can enable that logic app. And you don't need to be familiar with all those security best practices because they're all integrated in just simple one security policy, which is then again related to your secure score. And in my opinion, the secure score is a quite friendly overview and simple screen to follow. You see which subscriptions are enabled, which subscriptions are followed. It's not the best. It's not a practice to get everything to 100% because that's going to be a lot of work for some environments. But the thing is, if I'm using these things a lot every day, and even when I start deploying new things or greenfield deployments, a lot of those security best practices I automatically add to my scripts or to my ARM templates or bicep language. So those specific recommendations don't even pop up anymore in my environment because I already saw them at customer environments popping up. Oh, so I need to disable public access on the storage account if they don't need it. And then, so it's a good learning path to better secure your environment also, in my opinion, just by using it. So I start using it at my own environments. I enabled it at customer environments. And there are a lot, like, a lot of Azure resources worldwide. So it's a good way to better know how to secure your environment in all those resources.
Yes, also I want to add, it's a very nice general view for your environment security information. But most of people think Azure is very secure. I don't need to get.
You see, I have my scores 68%, 63, 56, for example. My development environments, there are a lot of things in red.
But I think yes, closing ports or securing your VNets or other using or key vaults is not enough to secure your environment.
No.
And also, I want to add, you need to secure your application. I mean, the source codes, or maybe you need to make some static code analysis or penetration test your application. Because I think Azure Security Center not going to test your application security.
No, that's where you get application insights and those things. Yes? But yeah, it's a way to get your base secured and then your key vaults. If your key vault is not secured enough, it will also pop up over here. So key vaults, Azure SQL databases, MySQL databases. It all depends. Like I said, if you go to the pricing in the settings, and in, for example, my management environment, I have my Azure Defender on, and I have enabled it for all these type of resources. So if anything security related, is it the container registry, is it related to Kubernetes, SQL Server machines, it will be checked by Security Center in the backend. So, and if anything can help me uplift my security on one of those resources, it will pop up in my secure score. But if you enable this, it will cost you some money.
Yes, but it is cheaper than if you had any
So like you can see, secure score is simply all about helping you improve your security posture with regards to Azure resources. If it's IaaS, PaaS, and even hybrid and multi-cloud workloads.
Yes.
So that's a good way. And then I think you also, next to the secure score, so my slide is showing again, I think, Mert?
Yes.
You also have identity secure score, for example. Normally that's a topic Tim will be talking about, but you can see identity secure score is also a secure score, but it more focuses and helps you to objectively measure your identity security posture and help you to plan your security improvements and review the security, the success of those security improvements. You also have specific roles that you need to be able to use it. You should be a global admin, a security admin, or a security reader. But let me also quickly show that one. So you can use that identity secure score if you simply go to Azure Active Directory. Let me open it from over here. And I've enabled it, and you can see I have secure score for identity. It's already on my overview page. I can simply click on it. And just like the secure score from Security Center, this one will give me all security improvements related to my cloud identities or my Azure identities or whatever. And I can also click on those specifically, and you can see the improvement action. You can see which impact that specific one has on the user, what the implementation cost is, and how you need to do it. But for the identity secure score, if I'm correct, you should have an Azure Active Directory P1 license at least. Otherwise, you can't use it. But it's also a way to, it's combined with the Microsoft Secure Score. That's something also Tim was talking about. But you can see I can also use this one specifically directly from outside my Azure, from inside my Azure portal. So if you go to, and for example, like we said before, the MFA, require MFA for administrative roles, it's in there. Status to address, it will also uplift my score. So on the identity part and on the identity and securing my identities, I still have some work to do. But it's available, it's there. And if you just want to focus, if you're just an identity and access administrator, or you're just simply the Azure Active Directory admin, you're only working with those things. If you have that specific rights, you can simply focus on uplifting your identity secure score, for example. It's available. I would also advise to use it. And then next to that one, there's also another one, but let me also quickly share my screen again. So I hope you already heard of Azure Advisor, Mert?
Yes.
Before? Did you already use it?
Not actually, but I know because lots of pop-ups when you open the Azure portal about Azure Advisor.
It's popping up almost everywhere, I think. So for people who don't know, Azure Advisor is a free service which will give you personalized best practices to optimize and secure your Azure deployments. And it can give you those recommendations which also can be customized and postponed, for example, by analyzing your resource configurations and by using telemetry data that it gathers from various Azure Monitor services. Important to know is that there currently are 5 Azure Advisor categories which can help you, but it's maybe easier that I show it in the Azure portal. And that you can access Azure Advisor through the Azure portal. You can use Azure PowerShell, Azure CLI, ARM of Bicep these days, or even the REST API. And to be able to access Azure Advisor recommendations, you need to have at least the owner, contributor, or the reader role on the subscription, resource group, or resource level. And even these days, Azure Advisor has a score. It's called Azure Advisor score, which currently is still in preview. And it's a measurement also, like the other scores, of the optimization posture of your Azure resources, and also based on Azure best practices. And it helps you to understand the current optimization posture states, and it will help you to improve and will report on your optimization progress over time. But let me also show that in the Azure portal. You see my screen again, Mert, I think. Yeah, that's your genes. So you can simply type in the global search bar, type in Advisor, just on top again. You can click on it. So the 5 recommendation dashboard, first of all, if you have cost, it can help you to optimize, to do cost optimizations. For those, a lot of resources already need to be running for at least a month. So we have some EAS VMs, and for example, if they're running for a month, probably a recommendation that will pop up is try to use reserved instances, for example. Then you have the security tab that's in the back integrated with Azure Security Center. So it will be the same recommendations like you see in the Secure Score and in the recommendations tab in Security Center. You can also view from over here. Then you have reliability, operational excellence, and performance. But you can click on those simply and go to the recommendations step by step. But you can these days also use the Advisor score. It's on top underneath the overview. You can simply click on it, and then you can see you can also use it for all your subscriptions. You can select a specific subscription. You can, like you asked before, you get the exempt, for example. Over here, you get the active, and you can have postponed recommendations. So you can look at your active, you can look at your postponed ones. You can group it. You can group it by subscription and stuff like that. So I've now enabled it for all my subscriptions, and it's quite easy. So for all my subscriptions at the moment, I have no cost recommendations. I currently have 42 security recommendations. I can simply click on that one, and they will all be shown. And for example, there are also those quick fixes are also over here. So for example, if I want to do quick fix on this one, I just click on it. I have some storage accounts where secure transfer isn't enabled. So I can simply click on one of those, or I can select them all, and I can simply click on fix. You can see fixing resources, it will fix it, fix the 2 resources, and the remediation is in progress. Just like you saw before with the other recommendations, but let me go back, it's not a clear way. I can also click on the reliability one. You can see that specific recommendation. I can see the operation excellence. So it's an easier way to look at it because it combines everything in a nice overview, and it's easier to use. So it's still in preview, but yeah, I would advise also everybody, it's for free. It's a free service. You don't need to have to pay for it, but it can really help you to improve and optimize your environment for whatever resources you have running. So that's a thing I also wanted to mention. For this, you can also configure it. You can even create alerts. So if a new recommendation pops up, in the back, it works together with Azure Monitor, and it allows you to, for example, get that recommendation through email. So you don't, a lot of people, and I know a lot of developers don't work in the Azure portal. So probably they don't want to open it and look at it. So they would just want to be informed if a new recommendation pops up. It's the same for Security Center. You can also enable it that it pops up in your ITSM tool, for example, or through email or in a specific web page you open from time to time. It's all for free. Also, the advisor is for free. Azure Security Center, Azure Defender Off is for free. So I would advise use those things. It will generate some work to get all the things fixed, but it will definitely improve everything. And from time to time, it will even save you a lot of money. So I don't know if you have a question or that there is a question related to the advisor's Q score. So you see, it's quite easy to open those things. It's available. You really don't need to be an Azure expert to use these things.
Yes, also the quick fix stuff is very nice.
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah.
It guides you to directly the correct page to fix the issue, or there is a detailed description. Also, you can learn from the Azure portal about the issue. And so let's ask the audience if they have any questions. Let's wait a couple of minutes, if that's okay for you.
Yeah, I have time. I have some key takeaways also. So 5 things or 4 things Tim and myself would advise or that you should remember about our session. So maybe I can already show those.
Sure.
So I think if there are not any questions at the moment, before closing off, Tim and myself just want to give our key takeaways. Like I said, a few things we think you should really remember about our talk today. Like we said in the beginning, try to implement a zero trust model by assuming breach and verifying each request as when it comes from an open network. Also know, that's a sentence you see a lot these days, is that identity for a lot of people and companies is the new security parameter. And you should really try to secure all your cloud identities and really foresee a good cloud identity and management strategy. Of course, for everybody using Azure or any Azure subscription or environment, try to secure that one also. Luckily, these days there are a lot of resources available that can help and guide you. Like, for example, the enterprise scale landing zone examples on GitHub or the documentation in the Azure Architect Center. So definitely go check out those too. And last but not least, use all free built-in Microsoft 365 and Azure services and tools like Microsoft Secure Score, the Identity Secure Score I showed, Azure Security Center, the free tier, the Azure Defender Off, and Azure Advisor. But you should also look at tools like Azure Service Health and Azure Cost Management, and all of this to better manage and protect your Azure environments and all of your cloud identities.
And we have a question. TRP8472. To keep on top of this, any blocks, including yours, to keep on.
I didn't get that one.
Okay. Okay, and ask, are there any blogs, including yours, to look at, to learn about these things?
There are a lot of tools. So Microsoft Learn is a good resource, I think. I also look, like I said, the Azure Architect Center. There are also a lot of GitHub repositories. But for example, with the Azure Advisor, like we said, Mert, you have some things deployed in Azure. Just open it up, Azure Advisor. It's free. You don't need to enable it or whatever. It's available. Just open it. Type it in like I did in the global search bar. If you simply, I can show you. For example, if you don't know where to look, wait, is my portal showing Mert at the moment? No.
No.
Yeah, there it is. If you simply type in the global search bar, Azure Advisor, under documentation, you directly see Introduction to Azure Advisor, Azure Advisor documentation. You can directly go from the portal to the specific docs. You even don't need to look at them. And you can open it in the next step. If you have a dual screen, open it and just go through those steps. If you're not used or not sure how to use it, and it's a good way to start. You can simply also type in a full phrase, how to enable Azure Advisor alerts, for example. Step by step, create an Azure Advisor alert directly from inside the Azure portal, and that advice will be given. And next to that, you have, I don't know if you know that one, Azure Quick Start Center. I hope I type it in correctly. I think it's like this. Yeah, Quick Start Center. If you have, did you already hear about that one, Mert, before?
Yeah.
So you can simply open that one. And if you're not familiar with using or deploying specific stuff, there are a lot of ways explains. So for example, you're not familiar about creating a web app, you should simply click on it. You can simply click on the create or click on the learn. So if you click on the create, it will be validated. And in the back, it will directly go to the right place and you can just fill it in and follow the guides from Microsoft Docs or through GitHub. So it's also a good way to start learning, deploying Azure stuff. And of course, these days you also have Microsoft Learn. It's the place to go if you want to start learning and how to use Azure or any other Microsoft tool or resource like Microsoft 365 stuff. So I hope that a little bit answers the question.
And I think yes. You are welcome, Andy. And also you can see the quick start stuff when you create a resource on the first page.
Yep.
Also, you can go to the documentation.
Yep. So it's all integrated these days, because I see a lot of colleagues of mine going in their browser to the docs, and I simply go into the Azure portal, I open it and just type the same question, and most of the time I'm a lot faster looking for specific stuff than when they need to go into their browser and doing those things. Even if I'm deploying, if it's through ARM or Biceps, I also always have my Azure portal open because I want to see if things get deployed, not to deploy through the Azure portal, but if I deploy things, I want to see things happening and how it's ending up in Azure, if you understand what I mean. And that's also a way to learn things. So the best way to start, in my opinion, is if you're not familiar with something, open the doc, just go through it in the Azure portal. First of all, deploy to the Azure portal, and then start, if you're familiar with it, with all the specific recommendations and settings, then use tools like Azure PowerShell, ARM, Biceps, Terraform, whatever, but know what you're deploying. It's quite important, I think.
Yes, because there are lots of resources and sometimes they are similar. You need to choose the correct resource.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
The bad thing is it is always changing. When you learn some resource, you cannot say I know everything, because another day you open that resource and it's probably you can see a new thing. And
it's constantly evolving. Even if you deploy specific stuff. I think some time ago, Microsoft announced, I don't know if you're familiar with Azure Bastion, for example. So previously you had the standard, the basic SKU, and then you needed the specific subnet for your Azure subnet. It could be a /27, but now they also in preview have a new SKU, the standard SKU, but where you can, in the back, the session host can be up to 50 instead of 2 when you use the basic SKU. But if you use a slider and go to 50, then if you have a /27 subnet, for example, it's not big enough anymore. So it needs another subnet. So Microsoft from time to time changes stuff, but for some things, it's not quite, things like Azure networking, it's not something you build up in a production environment and just drop down and build it up again and change the address range, for example. So if you're architecting and deploying new environments, I always try to allow me to change things whenever it's needed. So from now on, for example, when I deploy Azure Bastion for a new customer, I already use a specific /26 at least for the Azure Bastion just subnet. But those things you learn by doing those things and by testing it out and by learning, and then it's like you say, things are changing every day, and some things have more impact than other things. But
But it's a good thing because I like learning new stuff.
Yeah,
there are always new stuff on Azure.
Yeah, I have a lot of those stories, but probably those don't fit in an hour, I think.
Yes. So thank you very much. This is a very nice session, and I learned lots of new things. And
hopefully Tim will join us next time, because he probably would have learned us a lot of things related to the Microsoft 365 secure score, and probably told a lot of more things about the identity secure score. But I hope I filled the gap. I think we talked around an hour, so it should be fine, I think. I hope it was a little bit interesting and that people learned some things.
Yes, and hope to see you and Tim again in future episodes.
Let's hope. So, thanks for having us. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And thank you for joining me today. And the audience for their questions and nice comments. I think you can see it right now on Twitch.
It's open, yeah. Okay.
Okay, so have a nice evening. And
you too.
Hope to see you soon.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye. Cheers.